For a start, I have a question to ask you. How do you think how much money is on this truck? Is it billion of dollars? No, it's euros. So, how do you guess? These are 100 euros banknotes, and they add up to 2 billion euros. So you can imagine now, if you calculate what is on the bank accounts of European banks, that makes 20 times this. Most of the money is kept on the RDC bank accounts, but will this be continued? I learned yesterday that this is more or less the amount of money that will be kept in cash by Deutsche Bank. Why? Because it is not profitable for them to keep electronic money on RDC accounts because there is a penalty and it's costly. And this is where we reach a paradoxical situation where the bank is now considering how to logistically and technically solve a problem of having that much money in their vaults. Another question, how do you think how much this weighs? This is around 20 tons of money. This is 2 billion euros. But if we all don't want RDC and if you all want to keep money in cash, imagine that would give 800 billion euros in Europe. So that would make 400 trucks like this one. We couldn't even print that much money, I think. Not even mentioning the whole logistical part. In Europe, that's completely controversial story. So it's really abstract. Today we're not going to discuss it. Now we have a situation that a bank is encouraged to keep the money in cash because that is more profitable for them. We will see how it goes in future, but there is a trend. So let's imagine that we're now changing the coins, the banknotes, into what is stored on computers, like in Sweden, in Georgia, in the US, even in Poland. There are quite serious constructions of this type that are being built. And this is an alternative of having the computers instead of banknotes. Of course, it's not the fact that you need to have one computer like this in order to have one Bitcoin. Of course not. I can open a wallet on my smartphone and have the equivalent of this truck in my wallet. But this is needed in a situation when I send the money to another person or to a store, then I want my transaction to be confirmed and to be reliable. And to make sure that everyone agrees what the facts are. Now, how does it all is linked to the use of blockchain in administration? It turns out that the side effect of the transaction system is that every 10 minutes, let's say around, in the link of the blocks that is in all these computers stored in a distributed way, there is an undeniable record of transactions which cannot be changed. That, for example, from A to B there was amount sent. Usually that contains some additional information. What other information is there? There can be information of any type. It doesn't matter. What matters is that people realize in the academic and scientific environment that this technology is really useful for other purposes. For example, to use cryptography and store let's say the Congress library that is digitalized can be hashed and can be encrypted in an abbreviated way so that it is unique and secure. And from the moment where this cryptographic hash is created and included in this undeniable and unchangeable distributed record, then we are sure of all the information that is there. And the consequences are huge. Because until now, if we look at what technology we have, it seems that we're just walking around with a stick and throwing the stones. It's so primitive when it comes to notarization or creation of old records or providing the security of the records so that the information is not changed or that somebody doesn't forge the land registers or the patents. Yes, there is a whole range of applications. So one of the basic problems that is the basic problem that we face is the issue of identity. Not the identity itself, but the identification. Because we need to remember that it's not the same. We can identify a person, but we don't have to know their identity. And it's important. For example, in the internet, we make operations or transactions with people that we have never seen before. Very often we don't even know their identity, but we want somehow to have a proof that the person that we're dealing with, it's still the same person. So this side effect of the transaction network of bitcoins enables this. We can identify people for the constant cooperation, but we don't have to know who they are. One of the problems that is related to identity or identification is the identity attestation. So what is the basis for us to state that Mr. Smith is Mr. Smith? In our quite primitive world, we use the ID or the driver's license, and for 400 zloty you can have a driver's license for any name, any surname. We use also the handwritten signature. When I go to a bank and a lady tells me that my signature is not my signature, I ask her, how is it possible? And she says, half a year ago you gave us the specimen and it's different now. So that's the fact. We use these methods. But the Bitcoin exchanges, they collect identity of their users, and they often require personal ID documents as well. They do that in order to prevent frauds, and at the same time they expose the privacy and identity of these people to prevent frauds. And the people who make frauds, they try to use these old authentication methods. So there are internet stores that sell falsified identity documents. So it's completely old school and outdated, but we all do that because that's the obligation by law. And here we come to a point where we want to see how can we test other solutions. This internet world, the world of social media, and the fact that we have some software, we have some documents, we have a network of friends, it very often allows a much stronger verification and authentication than the ID document. So when we log in on Facebook and write, this identity number is mine, or when we write it on Twitter or any other social medium where we have a large history and a pool of friends, when we state what are our internet domains and we have the digital signature, this is very often much stronger than just the ID document. The same goes for email confirmation. We all use the POAP platform, which is the public administration platform for electronic services in administration. We also confirm operations by email. And what about the handwritten signature, which is scanned? Well, yes, it's similar. If I can scan and send my signature to anyone, it's still really outdated. So when we talk about identity, we know that a lot of people here know me and are able to confirm my name, my surname. So the network of people who know me, or the network of social media friends, are able to confirm my identity. And the same goes for the public administration offices, because sometimes I may use something else than the trustworthiness of my friends. But if I want to make an administrative operation which requires a high level of, let's say, trust, then I can go to an office, or that can be the university where I graduated. And under my digital signature, let's say a dean may endorse it, may put his own signature. Another aspect that is really practical, and it can be used today, that's super practical. This is not talking about the, dreams of future, but this is happening now. It's all the notary tools to testify that someone is the author of a book or a scenario, or confirm, like this one here. If we want to confirm that a scenario was created by us, we go to the notary and they produce a document. And this is our evidence in case of a court case. Once I won a case in a court just because the judge said that it was enough evidence to have a film on YouTube which stated the factual state of real estate. So it was enough to provide trustworthiness. New tools allow us to provide evidence that a photo or a film, whether digital or not, it existed at a particular time, and we can enter this tool, this date, in a blockchain, and then it's undeniable and unchangeable. The same goes for the proof of ownership. There are objects or documents that are stored somewhere in the network that are signed with our key, and they are the evidence of the ownership. What is interesting, we would not have to use any certificate that would be given by a certification institution, for example. Another important aspect is the proof of integrity. From the IT point of view, that brings us to the level of administration of any system where we have a possibility to have undeniable blockchain signatures with databases that are completely distributed, but we don't have to worry about the fact that people will have conflict about what is in the records, what is written in, what is the contents, because in one database it says this and in another database it says something different. For public administration, it means that we don't have to create the bunkers for storing the citizens' data in a secure way, because that's not needed. That can be done in an open way. They can be stored in a distributed way, and that will have undeniable evidence that the copy is authentic. I use this proof of receipt on daily basis. That's just something that I have in my browser, and I use it with my emails, and I can prove that I sent this email and that someone received it. With just ordinary emails, it's not really much needed. Are just regular emails used as evidence? They can be manipulated, and the records on servers can be manipulated. Me, as a technical person, I wouldn't trust such an evidence. Or maybe if someone gives me the cryptographic hash from that particular document, then I would. And what about the emails that are gathered and collected by NSA? All the emails globally that are collected by NSA, can they be manipulated? They can be cryptographically closed. Well, what I say about the email manipulation, I mean, when I write an email and the content is changed when it reaches my recipient. So there is a solution that was created 40 years ago, but it was released for the public users only recently. And there is a possibility of encrypting these emails, but very little people use it now. And people are not very much willing to use the public key infrastructure. Can we do it in a package that would work with one click and be effective? Yes, there are fully operational distributed email systems. They exist. You know what echelon is? Yes. There are some other programs like this. There are some upgrades now. We're not talking about the security of information here. It's a different topic here. What I'm discussing is when I send an open email, a regular email, I want to have evidence that someone received it. So I'm not addressing the fact whether this email was read by some services or not. But when I go to the court and present the cryptographic hash on blockchain, will the judge understand anything? And in the United States, there have been precedences. And in case of Poland, that would require the experts to state that if the blockchain hash is valid, it's the same, then the evidence is trustworthy. And the same goes for signing administrative documents. These documents might change along the time. So even the administrative institution may manage the blockchain operations itself. This is very rarely discussed. It's a taboo topic. This refers to production markets. Prediction markets. Even the stock exchange is a prediction market. It used to be considered pure gambling, but it's now socially accepted that it's something more than just gambling. But if you want to bet who will be the President of the United States and make money on this, this is prediction. What is gambling, what is not, is the questionable, and this barrier has moved now. There is a lot of hypocrisy as well. Blockchain enabled the prediction markets that are absolutely decentralized. So people are not afraid that some organizations might persecute people for creating prediction markets that would say this candidate will be elected president, and they want to make money on this. The prediction markets are used mainly as insurance. This is a very far-reaching comparison, but let's see a simple example. If the National Bank of Poland is afraid of the digital currencies to be successful, then they should have some kind of insurance for that case. How they can insure against this? They could buy bitcoins, because if it's successful, then they would make profit. They would say, okay, Bitcoin is successful and we made money on it. Today, National Bank of Poland has very small amounts of euro and dollars on their currency reserves. It might sound heretical and blasphemy, but if I say that digital currencies should also be kept as reserves by the Polish National Bank, it will not happen, I know. And non-central bank will do that this year. Do you know that for over 10 years there used to be a European currency like Bitcoin? Yes, it developed into euro in some way. We also have a global currency that is not being discussed widely. It is called SDR. It's by the International Monetary Fund, who has every right to print that money. This is a digression, however. The prediction markets appear, and there are many portals that use prediction markets. Today, I know that the Federal Reserve will not increase the interest rates because prediction market has valued that a long time ago, and people bet against that. And I know that in the middle of June the Fed will not raise interest rates. It is interesting that hypothetically, if I didn't want Donald Trump to win the elections, or if any political event might affect me in a negative way, I can have some insurance against that by betting on that event. So if you don't want to accept this event, you can have another benefit from it. Yes. For many people, this is completely abstractive way of thinking, because most of us never dealt with prediction markets, and it seems really strange to us. But understanding the prediction markets might be easier for people who bet on horse racing. But you can check out the Politicon, for example, and there you can do some research for yourself. There are many possibilities. Prediction markets that are not based on the real interest of the betting person are not effective, because only the markets where you can really bet what you have turn out to be really effective in their estimations, because people who are insider information, that we're coming back here to authentication again. Yes, I know that I have a little time left. Okay. So what the public administration needs to prepare for is to accept that the smart contracts will exist, and they will be out of their influence. They will be carried out regardless of any circumstances or anything that the authorities can do. The same goes for tokens. We discussed how the securities market will change. I have a company. I issued the shares, and if I wanted to pay the dividends to the shareholder, it's a horror. It's so outdated as a system that it's not practical. So when the shares are expressed as tokens that can be transferred from one wallet to another wallet, and we can control the process of transferring it, and it's cheap, then it's a really huge incentive and encouragement to change the way the securities market is functioning. It will not happen overnight, of course, but accept the fact that the capital will go from stock exchanges to something that is more effective in terms of finance, and that is based on the tokens. And to end up with, we've got DAO. It is beyond everything. It's like we used to have the airspace regulations, international law on airspace. It's still strictly regulated what airplane can go in what areas, but then the satellites appear, and to satellites it really does not matter how airspace is regulated. You look at the night sky and there's another American satellite just going there. DAO is the same. They do not care about the local law at all, and this is where I want to end. Thank you very much. Are there questions? I've got two remarks to what you said. In terms of regulations, we know that emails today are now accepted at courts without any problems. It was a huge question mark at the beginning how the judges and how the will react, but the emails are not questions. Well, to me, it seems like an easy way out, because a funny thing is that very often it is required to confirm that it's conform to the original, but it's not discussed, it's just accepted. I don't know any case. I'm a legal counselor, and I haven't had a case myself or any of my colleagues in which a judge or anything would question integrity of an email. If I were a judge, I would never accept an email as an evidence. But you know that it's good in terms of educating the society. Something is better, but it does not have to deny what happened before. 99% of emails is not manipulated, of course. So that's one of my remarks, and the other refers to blockchain. There are no limits and there are no obstacles to blockchains. But the thing is with leasing, for example, if we agree to sell or buy a car, and I tell you in my email, I want to sell you a car for 20,000, and you say okay, then it's good. The emails are enough. But when it's a leasing contract, it has to be written in writing as a document. If we do the same in blockchain, this contract is equivalent to email. So what happened with your case and email? It was a free assessment of a particular judge. The judge that heard this case, all the judges learn new things, and they are able to make a decision based on their free interpretation, their free assessment. And this particular judge was courageous enough to say, yes, I feel that nobody forged this film or forged this data. Yes, but at the same time, let's take an example of Honduras, when the documents relating to the land registry and the real estate registry were forged in a mass scale, and the phenomenon was huge. Right now there is no possibility of proving who is the real owner of the property. Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that we can conclude contracts using blockchain right now. Let's have another question. One more question. I have one question. I have a question about prediction markets. I did not quite understand what is the value of blockchain for prediction markets. It is the fact that you can create them in a distributed way, because they are mainly based on distributed functions. So where the information about who bets what is included in blockchain, then nobody controls it. So there is there's no company that can be held liable for any activity. So what's the benefit? There is no central place where the data is stored. Yes, exactly, and this is the benefit for the prediction markets, because the company that accepts the bets might manipulate the results in some point. Yes, thank you. So yeah, let's finish this time and go and move on. Thank you.